Okay, I'm going to record this lecture because it's actually over the Labor Day holiday. So it'll be recorded for you and then you don't need to worry. I forget if it's day 1 or day 3. I think I explained that day 3 I'm in transit to LA to teach in person face-to-face another class. So let's just get to it. Resilience and cumulative effects from urban environments. And this is about the factors that disrupt family development with a critical lens of race, ethnicity, gender, and class. The goals today are that we learn about the factors that impact family resiliency, specifically the protective factors. And we'll also talk about some of the risk factors. We'll learn about the relevance of religion, class, and gender on resiliency. Just a side note, the ecological systems maps will be graded. I'm not sure if they are being graded. I haven't started grading them as yet, but I'm just recording this lecture. So by next week, I'm sure I'll be grading them. Resiliency is fostered by protective factors. So what are some of those protective factors? When they're not broken, they are very effective in protecting individuals. So there's individual risk and there are protective factors. And according to studies done by Benzies, and I'm not sure how you say this, whatever. There is a locus of control, which is the individual's perception of the underlying responsibility for life events or cause of life events. So that perception of responsibility is, well, I'm one of 5 children, so there wasn't enough money to go around to put me in extracurricular activities, or with that many family members, how do my parents decide who gets to be transported to, practices or lessons or what have you. Locus of control, that is internal, is protective. Internal are things like, I control my own destiny. Maybe I can find extracurricular activities after school, so I don't need rides. I can participate and then come home afterwards. Or how can I change the situation? Can I get rides with other people? That sort of thing. External factors, is it destined for me to fail? There's no extra money, so I can't go out for cheer. Why could this perspective inhibit resilience? Oh, I'm gotta stay in my lane because we don't have a lot of money to go around, that sort of thinking. An internal locus of control is greater than the external locus on feeling empowered, taking charge to make positive changes. So it's whatever I feel inside, the internal locus of control, my perseverance. You've heard of people who pull themselves up by the bootstraps, meaning they didn't come from money, but that's what drove them to be successful, to overcome a poverty situation, to overcome adversity, to pull themselves out of what they feel they were destined for. Okay. There's the attribution retraining, and this retraining program helps change a person's view of underlying causes that make them more responsible so they can change behavior. Like diabetes is genetic, but there's nothing I can do about, and I'm going to die. That sort of mentality. But there is something. You can watch your diet early on. You can avoid certain lifestyles that might predispose that diabetic diagnosis at some point in your life, versus diabetes may be genetic, but I can eat healthier, exercise, become educated about ways to get better, like what I said. There's emotional regulation, which also helps. Being able to control your emotions and center yourself. Thoughts that are grounding can be protective. What do you possess that helps you to overcome challenges, disappointment? You know, do you just take it in, rephrase it internally, and find the goodness in it, the silver lining? Or are you emotionally unhealthy and you just say, oh, you know, bad things happen to me, that's just the way it is, you know, I'm a middle child, and that's sort of my mentality. I'm a middle child, it was a breech birth, I'm still backwards, I'm super klutzy. I don't have to be klutzy. I don't need to wear high heels and then trip all over myself. I can wear flats and walk steadfast and sturdy and be in control. Being emotionally healthy can be a huge risk factor. So the more optimistic you are and kind of say, well, everything happens for a reason, and there must be some reason I wasn't selected for this, or there was some reason I'm taking a different path here. It's in the clouds, it's in the stars, you know, I'm being pointed in a different direction, making the best of what you have. And then there are belief systems which shape our outlook on life. Positive outlook on life the more positive you are, it generates this this positive energy, and it attracts people to you. If you surround yourself with more positive people, then that lifts you up as well. If you have a strong sense of purpose in what you want to do with your life and giving back, making this earth a better place for the people that come after us, that spirituality that you possess that helps to guide you and answer some of those really difficult or unanswerable questions. You have to change your perspective. Do you wake up every day, oh, woe is me? Or do you like seize the day, throw back the curtains and say, hello, day, I'm going to make the best of it. It's your outlook on life. And then there's skill efficacy, which is important for resiliency. Being self-reliant, the more independent you are, the more you embody the strength that you can persevere. You're able to think and act independently. Resiliency has promoted it was promoted in adults with learning disabilities when participants believed that they could overcome problems on their own using the skills and talents they already possessed. And this was in a study by Wong. So some of those effective coping skills, which are really key to resiliency, are here. Make space for yourself. If you are if you work with interfacing a lot of people all day long, if you're a student and you're sitting in classrooms and you have a lot of social exchange, you may want a quiet space to balance out your day and to process everything that went on. Or do you continue with a really congested sort of lifestyle of people taking of time with people all day long and doing the same in the evening? You're going to deplete yourself of time, energy, and enthusiasm. Being able to ask for help is a huge coping skill. It can be difficult for some people to ask for help. Take a movement break. Rip paper. When I do support group with teens, I have these little tiny crank sort of paper shredders that I bought on Amazon, and I have the preteens and teens that I do support group with write their challenges on sticky notes, okay? And then they put the sticky notes in the little shredders to kind of like, and that's the same thing as ripping paper. It's like this, I'm getting rid of this challenge, I'm overcoming it. And it's a very physical way, tangible way of kind of releasing that challenge and saying, you do not have hold over me any longer. It's just an idea. Chew on ice. I've been a long time ice chewer. There have been other connotations for why people choose ice. I don't know. Yell into a pillow. When kids are immobilized in healthcare, we tend to give them a plastic spoon and they can beat their pillow with it. Or we fill up hospital gloves. And this is my perspective since I work in a pediatric setting. We fill up hospital gloves with Rice Krispies, and then we tie off the end and we let them pound it, you know, and it doesn't hurt anything, or throw it like a beanbag. Yell into a pillow, draw pictures, kind of get that energy out. It's a catharsis. Sometimes they scribble, and the crayons are just decimated into particles. Sometimes people need to learn to be flexible. And so you can take one of those pool noodles and bend it and shape it and move it. And it just kind of like releases it with a physical release. It releases that sort of energy with the same sort of symbolic meaning that you can bend things and be more flexible and change the way you look at things. Squeeze your hands together, take a deep breath, hug a pillow, cry if you need to. It's a very cleansing way to like rid your body of bad feelings. Think about things, write in a journal, brush it off, keep it small. Okay. Hug a pillow, hug a friend. Research on coping suggests that coping is significantly associated with psychological adjustment of children, adolescents who are exposed to stress. And there have been plenty of studies done on this. Communication is key for coping to build family resilience. The most important thing that we tell families in healthcare, and again, that's my perspective, that there are two things that are free to all individuals and that really help to build family unity and strength when a child is hospitalized. Go home, parents, and communicate with the other members of the household. Include them in, support them emotionally, and communicate. Communication is key, and a lot of people are not real good at communicating. You've got to like let it out. You've got to share with other people. We're not meant to be living in a silo and alone. So we need to communicate with the people around us. Talk about your day. Talk about why the traffic lights change so quickly. Talk about what you've experienced and the changing weather. But talk and communication is key in creating a bond with other people, which then creates resilience. It provides clarity, emotional expression, and problem-solving opportunities. So what sort of effective coping skills do you use? It's just a pause and think, okay? What helps you to overcome challenges? Think about it. Do you journal? Do you go out and play an aggressive sport, individual or team sport, to kind of let some of that energy go? And then it makes you so darn tired that you can't really do anything other than come home and shower and sleep. So what are some of those effective coping skills that work for you? Okay. It's just a pause and think. Let's talk a little bit about education, skills, and training. All of these provide more flexibility for jobs and stable employment. The more resilient you are, the better an employee you can be. Education is the most powerful weapon we can use to change the world. Sorry, that's a Nelson Mandela quote. Good health, it serves as a protective mechanism. Maintaining physical health makes people less susceptible to disease, more energetic, and more productive. And there's a YouTube video here that I cannot show you in a recorded lecture, but I need you to click on it and watch this video, okay? It's very thought-provoking. And then there's also temperament. And this is something that can be difficult to change because we're naturally predisposed to a temperament that is inherent in when we are born. It refers to an individual's natural predisposition to how we integrate stimuli. It's typically stable over the course of our lifetimes. Children with easy temperaments that cry less, that are kind of easily consoled, are buffered from negative effects of poor parenting, less vulnerable to maltreatment, and unhealthy attachment interactions. You can understand if a child is irritable and cries a lot, it can be very taxing on a parent. A single parent, two-parent household, on extended family members in the household, and it creates challenges. It creates a stressful, toxic work environment or living environment that can push people to their limit. So an easy temperament child is one that is kind of chill and just kind of goes along with whatever. The more irritable child is the one that can create a little bit of stress in the environment. Babies' temperaments. Easy babies make up 40% of the sample in any study. They're happy, they're cheerful, they have a regular sleeping and eating pattern. They adapt quickly to new situations. They're generally happy, comfortable babies. Slow to warm babies make up 15% of the population. They're more withdrawn. They're a little bit more moody. They tend to take longer to adapt to new situations. Babies that have difficult temperaments make up about 10% of the population. They tend to be fussy, and we have to really think about why they're fussy. Do they have diaper rash? Are they allergic to the milk or the formula that they're getting? Are they physically uncomfortable? Are they overheating? Do they need a nap? So as parents, you have to kind of be cued into whatever behavior a young child is sharing. And you have to really figure out what is it that this child needs. But difficult babies, by and large, make up about 10% of the population. They're fussy, fearful of new situations. They're more intensely reactive in their behaviors, and they can develop serious emotional problems like clingy, very attached. They don't want to let go. They don't want to be put down, that sort of thing. No single category of babies makes up 35% of the population. They have a variety of traits that cannot be classified into one or the other categories. Maybe they're fussy at some point. Maybe they go through several weeks of what we call colicky babies, where they cry inconsolably from, like they call it the witchy hour, from 4 to 7 p.m., can be even later than that, and they can't regulate. Gender can also be a protective factor in certain contexts. Under certain conditions, identity as female was associated with better behavioral outcomes. They're less externalizing in their behaviors. They take it in, they think about it, they tend to be a bit more social. According to research and studies, they have less levels of juvenile court petitions. And what else? Girls can also be a little bit moody, but they are less externalizing. They really kind of tend to be more social. Okay. In what cases may the opposite be true? What risk factors do girls have? If they don't identify with a female in their family, then they may have a more difficult time searching for an identity. They may act out a little bit more. They may be more rebellious. So it's just a thought-provoking question. Journal reflections. And this is an option that you can use. It's not a graded assignment, but it can be helpful to just kind of contemplate a little bit some of these ideas. So if you want to do this 2-minute free write journal expression or reflection, then that could be helpful and productive for you. The prompt is, what individual protective factors or risk factors do you possess? In what circumstances have you displayed these risk factors or protective factors? And why do you believe you have them? So they could be an internal locus of control. It could be emotional regulation, belief systems, self-efficacy, effective coping skills, increased education skills and training on a topic or another, your health, your temperament, your gender, those kinds of things. You can look at all of this kind of laundry list of both protective and risk factors, and think about what you possess and why. So the more protective factors that you have, and you can see that there's an arrow, a bidirectional arrow, the more protective factors you have, the fewer risk factors you will display. The more risk factors you have, the fewer protective factors you will display. Factors can be protective, but in some cases they can also be risk factors. An example, having a job is a protective factor, but the stress from long hours on a job can also produce stress and be a risk factor. If it leaves you very little time for attending class, doing homework, washing your clothes, eating properly, getting exercise, that sort of thing. There may be other examples of this, so you can think about that. Protective versus risk factors. Protective factors are very good. Risk factors, not so good. Proximal factors equal a direct effect. The people you surround yourself with that feed your protective factors. Socially, emotionally, family, friends, teachers, that sort of thing. Whatever is in your inner circle, okay? Pardon me. Distal factors have an indirect effect, okay? That's that outer circle. Distal, meaning the community. Whether you buy your groceries at Whole Foods or Pavilions or Ralph's or whatever. Distal factors. That has less effect unless you're shopping at a place that robs you of your all your money. In terms, if you're shopping at Pavilions and Whole Foods, you're going to spend a lot more money than if you shop at, pardon me, a cheaper grocery store. Okay. And so that it can have an indirect effect. Okay, family protective and risk factors. Again, according to Benzies, and I can't really say that, and their research. Family structure matters. Characteristics of family may have protective advantages. Smaller families, less financial strain. Mature mothers provide more stability. They've, you know, had their youth and, you know, sowed their oats, and then they make decisions to become a parent at a later life age, and they are wiser. They are not trying to live their own life. They are being more selfless and raising children as this is what I've meant, what my time is meant for at this point in my life. Intimate partner relationship stability is also something that matters. Stable relationships, high quality relationships, partners who are consistent and loving and didactic. They create more positive support and a learning environment that is has a protective factor. Okay, if someone you can depend on, that you can lean on, that you can share life with, that you can make goals with, that provides a protective factor. Family cohesion, how you get along with people you surround yourself with, helps. Facing adversity together makes it more likely to reach goals. And you can only do this by sharing. If there are financial issues and people are hiding that, you can't help each other. Resiliency is strengthened by mutual support. Okay. What processes could foster resilience? So we saw some of these in the film Two American Families. Family cohesion, adaptability, communication. In high family cohesion, it's always good. Why could this be? Families with extremely low or extremely high levels of cohesion exhibit low levels of healthy behavior. While healthy behavior peaks for mid-range levels of family cohesion. Interesting thought. So you can also write a little bit, just again, it's not graded, but if you keep any journal notes, you can write a little bit about families with extremely low or extremely high levels of cohesion. If you are in a living situation where you are super independent, you have to depend on yourself. It can provide a protective factor. It exhibits a healthy behavior. High level of cohesion, the more you share, the more you share, the more you participate in the people you share your life with, and you tackle everything together as a group. Think of the sitcom Friends. Really, their parents were not a huge part of that sitcom. I mean, you saw little bits and pieces of the extended family of Ross and Rachel, bits and pieces of Chandler and his two moms, and then Phoebe's kind of weird, chaotic family, and then I think Rachel's mom and dad, estranged mom and dad. and they're kind of needing to not ever be in the same room together situation. You can see how friends kind of created their own family unit. They were supportive to each other through financial issues, through dating, through holidays, and everything else. Supportive parent-child interactions are very protective. They contribute to more positive outcomes in high-risk situations. Having someone to lean on, go-to parent, like, mom, I backed into a pole and I ruined my car. What do I do? Just being able to share and not have to deal with those stressors all on your own. Promoting cognitive development, starting in preschool children, at that preschool age, and developing all of your cognitive capacities is also a very protective factor. It's almost necessary for children to go to preschool to survive kindergarten, at least in the state of California. In kindergarten, you have to be able to know your ABCs and write your own name and be self-expressive and that sort of thing, before you can even be a part of kindergarten. Otherwise, you have to take a year off and go to pre-K and learn those skills. But it's almost necessary for children to be in preschool to begin that cognitive development early on before they even get to kindergarten. Stimulating environments foster stimulation. Makes sense. Engaging and providing cognitive stimulation in the home is very favorable. They say, narrate everything you're doing from the moment your child is born. Just holding their hands and saying, I love you so much, and your hands are going to patty cake, and just you narrate everything so that they understand that language is a really important factor in building their cognitive skills. Social support helps also. Emotional support, tangible help or information, resources, social networking, cognitive appraisal, being able to say, hey, I'm really good at this, or I'm not so good at that. And having other people say, hey, this was really awesome what you did, or how can I help you with this? These are all protective factors. Family of origin influences, knowing where you come from and how you grow and what your ancestors have given you in strengths, in weaknesses, in just in understanding of your background, your cultural background, your spiritual background, your genetics, the countries that they, oh my, there we go. The countries of origin, and what the native language was, and what the food substances were. And if you came from Ireland, you ate a lot of potatoes. And if you came from Asia, you might have, they grow a lot of rice. That was the grain of choice. In other countries, they had wheat or barley or what have you, which helped to feed sheep herds and goat herds. And those were the staples of choice. So you had breads made with barley and breads made with, whatever else. In America, we have wheat fields. Wheat has been a staple. That, and if you are second generation, third generation American, grown and whatever, born and grown here, then that's probably a lot of American diet influences. So these are protective factors that are translated within families and transferred across generations. If your parents tend to cope in a certain way, you may also. because what the ancestors that came before you have passed down these traits. And some of this is really obvious in and again, healthcare, on what you do when you have a cold. Do you put Vicks on the bottom of your feet and put on socks? Or do you drink a broth made with onions and lemon juice? It just depends on the generations that went before you and how you cope with stressors. Stable and adequate income can be very protective. Makes sense. You have less to worry about. When you have money coming in, then you're a little bit freer with the money going out. People with stable employment are less likely to suffer from depression, according to McLeod and Wilson. More familiar income adequacy, they're more familiar with income adequacy than people who are living paycheck to paycheck and wondering how they're going to feed their families. Adequate housing. Early home life is related to academic achievement in children. If you have grown up in a house versus an apartment, that promotes a different sort of protective factor. In an apartment, you're not quite sure if rent is going to be raised, if you are going to be evicted, if you can't pay a new rent, if you don't have money one month, and what happens when you can't pay your rent. I mean, the same goes true if you have a home, but you usually can't be, you can be about 6 months behind in a mortgage payment before banks will take action. A stable home is really important because there is more attention than paid to children and their academic achievement when parents are less worried about money coming in and how they're going to keep a roof over the child's head. Adequate housing equates to security over time, habitability, accessibility, affordability, availability of services, materials, facilities, infrastructure, where you live, location, and cultural adequacy, how well you can continue with cultural traditions. Here's another journal, free write, no points or no assignment. What familial protective factors influenced you and make you resilient? Here's the laundry list. Family structure. Are you an only child or one of many? Intimate partner relationship stability. Family cohesion. How well do you all get along? Supportive parent-child interaction. A stimulating environment. Social support. Family of origin influences. Stable and adequate income, and adequate housing. You might want to take a minute and really think about that. And then there are community protective factors. I've told you about individual and family-based protective factors. Now it's your turn to identify community protective factors. And this is that outer ring, okay? Identify community protective factors and figure out how to promote them. Do you participate in community outreach? Are you involved in your community that has an effect on where you live, how you live, rent control, services provided, accessibility to services? Do you have daycare in your community? Those kinds of things. And then with community protective factors, using the reading on fostering family resiliency, what is each community protective factor and what are some examples of concrete ways to promote the following? If there's time, and there isn't going to be time because this is recorded, I want you to just kind of think about this and make some notes on community. How can you be involved in your community? Maybe religiously you're involved. Maybe your parent is on the PTA for your school. Is there peer acceptance, supportive mentors, safe neighborhoods, access to quality schools and childcare, and access to quality healthcare? I think that's my last slide, so I'll stop there. But this is the recorded lecture for week 3, and I believe if it's not day 1, it's day 2 of week 3. Okay.